Hello and welcome to the Alpha Movement Podcast. My name is Tom Foxley, and on today's show, actually before we get to today's show, I have a very special announcement to make. If you live in London, if you are wanting to get some awesome coaching on a one-to-one basis, potentially from myself, then all you have to do is head over to alphamovement.co/London, and I am going to take on one personal coaching client in the central/East London area. Okay, the reason being, I miss coaching. I miss working with guys and girls on a one-to-one basis. So I'm going to take on maximum of one lucky man or woman, and we shall revolutionize your fitness. So remember, if you want to, and by the way, head over to alphamovement.co/London, or you can email me, tom@alphamovement.co, and I shall hopefully give you the thumbs up, but we shall see. So remember, you can support the Alpha Movement Podcast by heading to patreon.com/Alpha Movement Podcast and donating as little or as much as you would like. Or you can head to facebook.com/Alpha Movement Official, or find me, Tom Foxley, all over social media because I'm a social media whore. Now, today's show is a slightly special thing. As some of you may be aware, a while back I wrote a book. It is pretty good, actually, even if I do say so myself. It's had an incredible amount of kind words. I've been blown away by the amount of people who have ordered this book, who have said some incredibly nice, kind words about it. And I never expected so many people to be so affected by it. It's called Intensity Tolerance. It is a guide to pushing yourself harder. It is a guide to making yourself into the athlete you truly can be if you apply these principles. It's an accumulation of everything that I have learned in the last decade or so of training and pushing myself and transforming myself from a weak, I'm going to be really cruel to myself, a weak little weedy boy into something of a decent athlete. So I'm going to give you the first chapter and the first intro of this for free, just in this audio format. And you can head to alphamovement.co/intensity and you can buy the full book. It's only $15. I'm not asking a huge amount for it. I just want to get it out to the world as much as I can. So let's start. The plastic heels of my misfitting boots were tearing into my soft, weak tissue. I could feel the blood starting to trickle down into my borrowed socks. I looked up into the rainy grey sky in Dartmoor, England, and fought back a tear as I dragged the flaccid body of Chris up the hill. My legs were screaming for rest. I couldn't feel my hands. Above the screaming of the train team, I could hear the thumping of my heart in my ears. I couldn't see straight, and the smell of drying blood, come on, Tom, you can do this, of drying blood that caked my nose and face was surprisingly reassuring. We were performing what seemed to be like the 100th set of backward drags up the steepest incline in the training area, with your oppo, friend, facing away from you. You thread your arms between his arms and his body, between his arms and your body. I can do this, not enough capping today. Grasp your own hands in front of his chest, then run backwards, dragging your oppo up the hill whilst he remained relaxed. We'd run, walked, crawled and duck walked most of the infamous endurance course at this point, and we were soaking wet, covered in the bright orange mud of Dartmoor and delirious with fatigue. At that point, I'd been awake for the best part of 72 hours. I'd been thrashed to the point of exhaustion, then beyond it. My willpower had been tested. I wasn't strong enough and I couldn't do this. I was just a skinny, bullied kid from a humble home who thought he could change himself. Well, I wasn't. I was going to quit. The dream of my life for the last 5 years has been to defy all odds and prove to the world and to myself that I had what it took to be a Royal Marines Commando. To feel the pride when a green beret, the reward for completion of the most grueling basic military training in the world, was placed on my head. To go back to my family and show them how I'd become a man, and to finally prove to myself that I could be the man I wanted to be. But I was going to fail. I just had nothing left to give. Physically and emotionally, I was empty. I hadn't even got accepted into training. This was just the notorious potential Royal Marines course. I pictured how it would feel to come back to my girlfriend and tell her that I wasn't the man she thought it was. And at that point, I was okay with it. I pictured telling the training team I'd had enough already. I felt disappointment already. And I told myself when I got to the top of the hill, I would tell the corporal that I was quitting. I stood tall, drove my heels into the ground and waddled one step at a time, wading through not only the knee-deep mud, but fatigue and hatred for my weakness, to the patch of grass where I'd never forgive myself. I got to the top of the hill, placed Chris down in the mud, walks to the corporal and then hit me. I had nothing left to give, nothing. And yes, I gave more. What I learnt at that moment was that mental toughness is nothing more than a choice. I didn't know it at the time, but that started a decade-long and counting fascination with cultivating fortitude and resilience. For some reason, I was happy to give in to the peer pressure, to give in to fear, to give in to weakness. I didn't have fight in me and presumed I never would. I thought the beliefs we possess are unchangeable, that we play with the hand we're dealt. In that moment, I learned that with skill and practice, I could reach into the deck of cards and choose the ones that serve me best. You see, fortitude is a skill. Resilience is a skill. Being the man you want to be is a skill. That lesson stayed with me over the course of the next 2 years as I fought my personal demons and came out the other side of with the green beret of the Royal Marines on my head, the words emblazoned on my uniform, and most importantly, an unshakable belief that I was in control of how hard I pushed, and therefore any successes and failures I experienced are almost entirely in my control. That belief and that introduction to intensity would shape the man I would become. And there's a little quote here. I will persist until I succeed. Always will I take another step. If that is of no avail, I will take another and yet another. In truth, one step at a time is not too difficult. I know that small attempts repeated will compete any undertaking. I will persist until I succeed. That is from Ogmandino. And then, shall I give you the first chapter? Yeah, I'll give you the first page of the first chapter. Okay, so the first chapter is called Perception, Action and Will. And it starts off with a quote by Erin Hunter. Warriors should suffer their pain silently. Until that point, I lacked willpower. Well, that's what most people would say anyway. In fact, even the Stoics, my heroes, would say that I was lacking the third part of that philosophy. There are 3 parts to succeeding in any quest according to the Stoics: perception, action, and will. In the view of the Stoics, I had seen the situation I was in clearly, and I knew where I was going. That's perception. I'd put my name down and turned up. That is the action. All I needed was the willpower to take me through. If I'd given up, it simply would have been a lack of willpower. But here is what really happened. I'd been through perception and action, yes, but I'd also been through will. What I needed to do was start again at perception, not harness willpower. Or not harness more willpower. I'd hit my limit in my beliefs. I didn't believe I was capable of pushing further. I needed to change my beliefs. So what I needed to do was to look at the situation I was in differently. I needed to see the situation for what it was. I needed to see that I was in control of my effort and therefore I was in control of my outcome. But what is that knowledge? That knowledge is a belief. Beliefs are the stories we tell ourselves. They can help us. I've done this before. I'm capable. I'm strong. I'm going to give everything I have, or they can hinder us. I'm not feeling it today. I suck at thrusters. What will the people watching think? I'm not good enough. I cannot say this enough. Your beliefs are your biggest limitations as an athlete. It follows then that the objective is to change our beliefs. And that, ladies and gents, is where I shall finish up for this reading. One arrogant prick. So that was the first little bit of this ebook. It is 30,000 words of my heart that I've poured out into this. If you enjoyed it, all you need to do is head over to alphamovement.co/intensity and you can find a copy for yourself. If you do download it, I would hugely appreciate it, and not only will I appreciate it, not only will you get my gratitude, but you'll get a fucking awesome book, even if I do say so myself, that will help you push harder than ever before, help you become the athlete you want to be, and kind of teach you about intensity. There's a few bonus workouts in there. There's all kinds of good stuff, including how to push yourself, how to become an awesome athlete, how to use the tools and the tactics that I've been taught throughout this podcast to make yourself into a better human being. So again, that's alphamovement.co/intensity. And don't forget that you can potentially, if you're lucky, start working with me on a one-to-one basis by heading to alphamovement.co/London. Just for Londoners, just for one human being, one lucky human being, you will get a chance to work with me. And on that note, I shall see you soon for another episode of the Alpha Movement podcast.